It's a damn good thing there's no meat in coffee. What's up, kids? How are you today? I am struggling with the heat. It's not even that warm yet. We're kind of in an in-between stage between end of what is winter and spring, and moving into the warmer months. Now, I'm not a person who deals with warm weather well. Excuse me, I'm just going to move the mic. Whoop. There we go. I don't deal with warm weather well. I get too hot, I forget to drink. My main beverage of choice is caffeine, which is a dehydration tool. It's not the best situation to be in. But I thought today I would talk about a little experiment I did. So, as you may know, or you may not know, depending on when you came to this podcast, I like to do a thing every so often where I challenge myself. And I usually do it for about a month. The last one I did almost killed me. It was giving up caffeine, hence the introduction. And I didn't drink coffee or caffeinated products for a month, and I avoided it at all costs, and I ended up with a massive migraine, and I regret every second of it. But I did it. I like to do that. I like to just push myself. I feel like in life you have to know where your limit is, and if you sat comfortable, you got to make yourself uncomfortable once in a while. It's that little masochistic part of me. I believe masochism is the right word. Maybe it's not. It could be sadism, but no. I think I'm just going to do a masochism. You're learning as I go. Tendency drives. It's not fully masochistic because there's nothing sexual about it. I'm basically just trying to feel connected to the world. So maybe masochism is the wrong word there. But jumping back to the point before I even get off track. So I say we, there's only me here. I decided to do a little challenge. This time, I decided to have a vegetarian diet for a month. It ended up being almost 2 months because I started in March, and then as I came to the end of March, I suddenly realized that Lent was occurring. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I do like symbolism. So I decided to extend that to the end of Lent, which was the other day. So for those at that time, I didn't eat meat products. I animal products like eggs, milk. I didn't go full vegan. And I tried that. Now I'm going to, bit of a disclaimer, this isn't the first time I've done this. I've done this before a couple of times where I've decided to just do it for a month. And the reason I do this, the main reason I got asked was, why are you doing this, Graham? Are you going vegetarian full time? No. The reason I do this is because I like to vary my diet. I find you can get very bored. I love food. It's the reason I'm a chunky boy. But I like to vary up my diet. I find you can kind of get bored of eating the same thing over and over again. You do fall into these traps. You buy the same things, you buy the same products. So this was forcing me to basically just expand my product range by doing it. And then that was the full intention. There was a few meals which I wanted to know how to make, and without restricting myself, I probably would have never got around to making them, just because you just fall into the same trap. What's the harm in going to the shop and just buying some chicken, or going to the shop and just, buying gammon and then throwing that in with meat and eggs and blah, 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 blah. By the way, the two things I went to learn how to cook was tofu, and I would like to thank a friend of mine on Instagram for giving me great tofu advice. And the other was minestrone soup, a soup which I never made. I love making soup, and it came out amazingly. I'm very surprised. The recipe I followed was fantastic. But back to the point. So yeah, I tried out the whole vegetarian thing, and it wasn't even like a YouTube ploy. It wasn't even like a want to kind of go, oh, look at me, I'm being edgy, I'm going vegetarian, and you see how it affects my body. It didn't affect my body. It's a month. It's like 2 months. Nothing changed. The amount of calories I was getting didn't change because I'm a hungry person, so I eat. I just didn't eat meat. And that led me to the main comment, which I kept getting from people of, oh, I don't think I could ever do that. Really? You really couldn't do that? Meat isn't that big a part of our diet. I'm just going to throw that out there. Now, animal products, yes, they're a huge part of our diet. Things like gelatin and like insects and different things like strength, all these little things which we use to put protein in things, that's a huge part of our diet because that weeds into other products. But meat, like standard meat, is not a huge part of our diet. We just happen to build meals around that product, which is, again, one of these things why I did this. You don't have to build around that product. You can build a meal around potatoes. People love potatoes. Potato Boy loves you. So why can't you appreciate the potato? Crack some tofu in there. I mean, not crack, it doesn't come in a little shell. But this was the thing, like, people kept saying, I couldn't do it, even for a month. I'm thinking, why? Okay, so I'm quite a large meat eater. The reason I'm quite a large meat eater is because of that. There's a taste called umami, which was discovered presumably with the hipsters about 5 years ago, and it's a savoury taste. It's supposed to be kind of like the extra taste sensation which you weren't taught about at school, where you're like, oh, salty, sweet, sour. No, there's umami, and it's this savoury flavour, and I am no doubt addicted to that flavour. It is my favourite flavour. I'm not a person for sweets. I like sweets, but it's not the main drive of my life. I love pastry, savoury pastries and pasties and fried things and things which have been aged, which is why most of my drink habits are stuff like whiskies and ales, because they're bitter and they have this this great crisp flavour. And now that is what made this vegetarian debacle quite hard this time. Because I'm so used to it, I essentially had to look up ways to get that satisfaction from vegetarian food. And again, it made me divert and try and be more motivated in learning about what I was eating. And I mean, I'm quite motivated in learning about what I was eating. I love cooking. Cooking's one of these things which I've always enjoyed doing because I enjoy food and I was a fat kid. So I was like, oh, well, clearly I need to know about everything. Excuse me. But this umami flavour is something which doesn't particularly exist in vegetarian diets. Is why I kind of think a lot of vegetarians I've met are so obsessed with chocolate and sweet things. I think a lot of those people just don't get that flavour, or they don't crave that flavour, which is why they find it, in a way, so easy to adjust. But it seems mad that people have this flavour which they're unaware of, or they are aware of, and they don't think they could give that up for a month. It's like people say they can't give up drinking for a month. Really? You couldn't go a month without a drink? To me, if there's anything in your life which isn't just survival based, which you couldn't give up for even a month, it's 4 weeks, it's 30 days, then you need to. You need to be able to have that disconnect. Can you give up the internet for a month? I could give up the internet for a month. Use it for just work. It seems mad. I don't think you should have anything in your life you can't give up for a month. This is already making me think of other challenges for myself. We're just throwing this out there. But it raised a lot of questions. The whole vegetarian diet. As I say, in terms of myself and my health, I didn't see any differences. It helped me maintain the same weight. I didn't go up in weight during that time, which is something which I'm always dealing with. Mainly because the amount of fat which was going into me was heavily reduced. Most of my fat comes from meat products or pastries, and I was avoiding pastries because vegetarian pastries suck. This was something which is hugely, hugely deteriorating. Okay, so now I don't think it's particularly hard to be a vegetarian. And I may offend some people with that sentence, but that's the truth in my view. Because in terms of restaurants, I never struggled in restaurants. In terms of my day-to-day eating, I make all my own food, so it's my choice of what I put in that food. In terms of my workplace, there was a vegetarian option. Some of them were great, some of them weren't, but the same can be said for the meat option. So I'm not a huge problem there. Problems I found were largely based around things like fast food and everyday takeaway food. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll tell you. Graham, let's please carry on. So, what do I mean? So, if I go to a shop and I was trying to find a sandwich, I'd basically have two options from any shop: cheese and tomato or egg mayo. Now, I like both of those things. That's fine. Those are the two dullest sandwiches in the world. It's like having a plain cheese sandwich. That's fine, but you don't want it every single day. So finding a standardized sandwich to buy from shops was ridiculous. I ended up having just egg mayo a lot and modifying sandwiches. I was getting into food modding. It was getting to that point, adding extra flavors in there. Why is that the standard? Why is that a thing? You can go out and you can buy lots of vegetarian ready meals, main meals, and there's loads of vegetarian options, and restaurants are starting to get and do all these things, and they cater to vegetarians, and you can kind of ask for things to be removed. But sandwiches, a huge staple of the UK diet, just throwing it out there. UK, we love sandwiches. It's so boring. And the same with pasties, pastries. I didn't eat pastry for like a month because buying a vegetarian pasty is so dull. There's just nothing to it, and you bite into it, and it's okay, but it's not enticing in any way. They don't look enticing. It's just a veggie pasty. Joy, excitement. Put it in your mouth and it's extremely disappointing. It's like your first boyfriend. Now, correcting my face. Yeah, the same can be said for takeaways. Now, takeaways, I love takeaways. I mean, look at me. Clearly like takeaways. And yeah, going to them became kind of a problem. It made me eat less takeaways because I knew my options were heavily limited. Every pizza place I went to, there'd be maybe 2 or 3 vegetarian options, and they would all be based around the same thing of cheese, tomato, and mushroom. And that was it. So I ended up making custom pizzas, just to get more flavor in there, to get more things going on. Just a cheese pizza. Why is the vegetarian diet so heavily based around cheese? And I get that, like, that's a huge source of fat for vegetarians who require it. But my God, I'm not a huge fan of cheese. I like cheese. It's a thing which I throw on things. I'm probably going to have cheese on toast for lunch, but I don't want it in every meal. Don't replace meat with cheese. That makes no sense. You know, or veggie burgers. Veggie burgers are really nice, but you don't want them every single time. You just don't. Takeaway menus are heavily meat-based, which I find quite strange because restaurants aren't. And I don't know if it's playing off that whole you're drunk, so you probably want the salty, sweet, fat taste, which does come. For 2 months, I basically craved 2 things, which, by the way, when I ended the streak on Good Friday, I waited till the Saturday and solved both these cravings. I'm a person who craves foods, and the fact that I couldn't for 2 months kind of killed me. All I wanted was fish and chips. Hashtag stereotype. And a battered sausage. Again, stereotype. I live in the north of England. That's a staple. And hot dogs. That's all I wanted. I had a can of hot dogs in my cupboard and I couldn't eat them. They were just like sat there taunting me. And fish and chips. I live near 2 chip shops. My God, walking past them. And it was all about that. I love fish. I love eating fish. It's one of my favorite foods. And hot dogs, I don't care what you say about how they're processed. Everything is processed. I realize they're not the healthiest thing. They're not something I eat every day. They are a treat for me. And I mean treat because they are flavoursome and I love them. And pastry, my God. But yeah. It became a balancing act. And I solved that all in one day. I had a pig out day. Which I recognise is hugely privileged, and the fact that I can just do that, and a lot of people can't. It's wonderful to think on that. But where does this leave me? Where does this leave me in the future? Where does this leave me in terms of my morals and my ethics? So obviously the reason I did this was to vary on my diet, and some of you may be thinking, Graham, why didn't you do this for ethical reasons? Why didn't you do this for, saving the planet or getting involved in the global revolution and not harming animals and all this kind of stuff? So my personal view in terms of eating animals and in the world is that, one, I don't think we're ever going to eliminate meat eating within our lifetime. Well, we'll live it within my lifetime. That's just something which I don't think will happen. I turned 30 this year. 34 years from now, I'm going to be dead. I don't see it happening. I think we can massively reduce the amount of meat we eat. I think it should be a luxury product, and it should get to that stage where it is something which you eat maybe once or twice a week. In terms of animal products and the bits and bobs we use, I have no qualms about drinking beers which has finings in it, which is insects, or eating sweets which have gelatin in it, because it's using parts of the animal. It's using all of the parts of the animal, and the more we can use, it's getting those different cuts of an animal. A friend of mine has a theory about if you buy a whole chicken instead of buying individual breasts, you're only killing one chicken, because you're going to eat this whole chicken. And you're going to use all the cuts rather than a singular breast. And I think little steps which you can take and being more mindful of what you eat is the way to go. I personally think, as a species, as animals, about to get kind of deep here. As a species of animals, I think that we are designed to have that varied diet. We're designed to have both, and I don't think limiting that is a natural way to live. But at the same time, I can respect what people do. I expect anyone who has high ethics and believes in something that they would change their whole lifestyle. I think that's the difference between vegetarian and veganism. For vegetarians, whilst it's hugely about morals and ethics, a lot of it becomes about diet. Whereas with veganism, you basically change the way you live entirely in order to accommodate that, because you have to. There's no way around that. It's not just a choice of, oh, well, I'm going to stop doing this. It's all right, I'm going to stop doing this. Therefore, I'm going to need to make plans. I'm going to need to make reservations in order to do this. And I think that's hugely important. So would I go vegetarian again? Yeah, sure, I would. You know, if it was something I had to do continuously forever, I could do it. But at some point, I'd be unhappy with doing it. There'd be things I miss. I have no problem with fake meats either. I have a problem when they do stuff like vegan chicken. I just call it what it is. Labeling of things I have a problem with, not the actual products. I enjoy them. I tried many false meat products during my time to find good ones and bad ones. You know, you got to weed them out, try all the different things. And I don't think personally it's something which I would change. But what I am doing is heavily reducing my meat intake, because I find it quite easy, and I didn't find it particularly a challenge. I found that I could, on weekdays, not eat meat, and then on the weekend I can eat meat. I'm not restricting myself to the extent that I was restricting myself in terms of not allowing myself to eat anything. But what I am doing is setting myself a generalized moral rule of, no, you know, it's the weekdays. You avoid that. You try and find different options, and if I'm unable to find a vegetarian option which I enjoy, then I still have the option to eat meat. But it's heavily reducing the amount of meat which is going into me, and which is being consumed. And I think that's something to do. There's an initiative which I see quite a lot, which is meat-free Mondays. And to me, 1 day a week isn't enough. I'm not a person who does things by halves, so doing that 1 day, it's like, cool, yay, great, you're thinking about what you're doing and you're having that initiative. But at the same time, that makes no difference. If everybody just stopped eating meat 5 days a week, that'd make a huge impact. So that's what I'm doing. And then on weekends, I'm allowing myself to eat meat. But again, if I'm changing my diet gradually anyway, I might get to weekends and not even want it, or not even need it, because I've already got some meals planned because of what I'm doing in a week. And that's the future plan. I don't know if anyone agrees with this. I don't know if there's any vegetarians listening to this. They may think I'm completely insane. Meat eaters may think I'm completely insane. But this is just my view. This is what I did. I do a little experiment on myself every so often. Why wouldn't you do a little experiment on yourself every so often? I don't know if I have a point to this. I just thought I'd tell you about my experience. A couple of things I discovered. Tofu is fantastic if you marinate it. And I can now make minestrone soup, which I've already mentioned. I can never go full vegan. There is a reason for this. It's not even medical. Some people were asking me about iron content, and I managed to get plenty of iron on a vegetarian diet, so it makes me wonder about people's iron intake. But I could never go full vegan. My general view of how we treat animals is, as long as we're treating animals with respect and we're giving them a good life before we consume them, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with animal products. I'm okay with eggs. I'm okay with milk. I'm okay with cheese. These are things which I think, in a way, we're forming a cooperation with an animal, because we as a species have adjusted reality and the world we live in to such an extent that I don't think there is a way back. I've not been given a view or a coherent argument of how we could go back, and that's what stops me from anything like that. And that's hugely important to me. It's the same with any cause or any theory or ethos or anything like that, is that if you're going to explain it to me and you're going to bring me to something and you're going to suggest that I do something, I need a logical argument for it. I need, this is how we could do it, this is how would this take effect, and this is how long it would take. And I've never had that. I'm happy to listen to people's arguments about veganism and vegetarianism, but the current plan, or the current loudest argument, of just everybody stop, and then what? There's literally millions of animals just chilling in fields, waiting to be consumed, or working in dairy farms and hatcheries, maybe, I don't know, eggeries. What happens to those animals? And no one's brought me these things, and I can think of little things, of ways to do it, but I don't think we're at that scale. I think the only way to do it is to form a coherent methodology between us, which is treating the animals with respect, and using their products in the same way that if you left animals unattended, they would consume us. If they were hungry, they would consume us. I think that's my argument for that. But let me know what you think. I'm curious about your eating habits. I'm curious about how you approach food on an ethical level, and whether you think you could do the whole meat free thing, because I find it insane that people don't think they could do it for a month. It's not hard. It's really not. Unless your entire diet is meat. And it does make you vary up things. I didn't eat a single salad. I'm just saying that. I didn't eat a single salad for 2 months. I had side salads, but I didn't eat a whole salad, mainly because I find salads really boring. I didn't eat a whole salad on a vegetarian diet. So you don't automatically think that. I don't know, I've gone off. My hands are getting all big. Anyway, I will talk to you guys later.